Hello there, I'm Huey Poplock. This past week, two of my friends contacted me that they either had a hard drive failure and the other one had a computer failure. The first thing I asked them was, did you back up? Because if they backed up, then it's a matter of getting them either a new hard drive or a new computer and restoring their data and their programs. I'm going to talk about some backup programs that I use. I'm not going to train you on how to use them. I'm just going to give you an introduction to what they are and how they can be used, and then you can decide for yourself whether you want to try them. Here is a typical hard drive file manager. And then, poof, they're all gone. What do? Well, there's several ways you can back up your system in advance. You have to do it before, not after your hard drive failure. Hard drive failures happen, and they always happen. It's not a matter of if they are going to happen, it's a matter of when they are going to happen. Image backups is one way of backing up your system. An image backup, they are just what the name states, an image of your entire operating system, including files, executable programs, and the operating system configurations. Professional backup solutions will create full or incremental images of the hard drive in an automated fashion. With an image backup, you can restore a single file, a directory, or an entire disk to the same or another hardware or to a virtual machine. You can back up to different devices, such as an external USB drive, a network-attached hard drive, network-attached services, or other devices. And here's what it is. It goes from the hard drive to either the cloud or to an external hard drive, or from files to an external hard drive. Now, there's another way in which you can back up, and that is file backups. Now, file and folder backups will back up each file on your PC or the ones that you designate. They don't work in case you want to do a full restore of an operating system. File backup systems will save documents, but not the applications that created them. If you did not set up your file backup to save all the documents on your machine, then you won't be able to restore them. You can generally configure file backup systems to take an automated backup of everything at a set time. There's a third way in which you can do a backup, and that's cloning. When you clone a drive, it's simply copying everything on it, including the boot records, files, settings, and themes, to another drive, and get an identical drive. With this technique, there's no intermediary process, as you just connect both drives, copy their contents of the source drive to the destination drive. Then you take the duplicate drive out, you put it in a safe place. If you need it, you then just swap the drives and you're ready to go. So the created drive can be used immediately as a primary drive or kept as a replica. You need to do this often to make sure that you have a recent cloned drive. Now, for my backup, I use a Acronis True Image, the latest version being 2021. It sells for about $50. It is one copy per computer. So if you have two computers, you're going to have to buy two copies of it. They do have some special deals that if you buy three, you get a reduced rate and so on. And the address is at the bottom. You go to acronis.com. Now, yesterday, or over this past weekend, I did a backup of my system. You'll see on the left is the WDC, which is a Western Digital drive that's in my computer. It happens to be an SSD card. And I backed up to an external drive, which is a 10 terabyte external drive. It started the backup, and you can see there it's backing. It had already backed up 93 gigabytes. You can see there that it's saying there's 1 hour and 12 minutes remaining, and I already have backed up about 100 gigabytes, which is about 10% of what I have. And there it is, a little bit larger, so you can see it a little bit better. And then as it proceeded, there was 33 minutes left. And when it finished, it actually took 1 hour and 3 minutes to back up a total of 852.9 gigabytes. 113 of those were pictures, 113 gigabytes. 256 gigabytes of videos. 15 plus gigabytes of audio. 38, almost 38 gigabytes of documents, 30 gigabytes for the system, and then there was another 400 gigabytes of miscellaneous type files. But it did complete. I have a full image backup of my computer as of Saturday at 10:30 in the morning. Some people don't like Acronis True Image, and they use a program called Macrium Reflect. Version 7 is the latest. There is actually a free version of it. And for most people, that's probably all you need. So you don't have to spend $50 or more or less to have a good image backup software. You can use Macrium Reflect. And there's the website on the bottom of the page. You can see the features. There's a lot of features that are not included in the free version, but there are a lot of items that are featured in all of their versions that you can see in this chart. This is the top of that chart from the last slide. And if you get the free version, you don't get any support, where if you have the paid versions, you do get various levels of support depending upon the version that you have. Another way in which I back up, I use some cloud backup. I use one called iDrive. There are various backup services in the cloud. I happen to have tried iDrive several years ago, probably over 5 years ago, and have been using it ever since. They've now increased the minimum storage that you buy is 5 terabytes. It's generally $70 a year, $69.50 to be exact. But they are running a deal, you can see right here, for $6.95 for 1 year. Might be worth a try. After that, their special price is $52 a year for 5 terabytes of storage. Now, what they did, because I had, at the time when I first started, I had about a half a gigabyte of data that I wanted to store and back up in the cloud. They sent me a hard drive for free. I ran their software backed up to the hard drive. I mailed it back to them at their cost. And they then put it on the cloud after that. So I didn't have to spend several weeks of uploading to the cloud to get all of my data there. You can see how much what I back up to iDrive, my desktop, the documents, downloads, my Evernote, music, pictures, and videos. You'll notice on the right how much I am backing up from each of those at the time that this was taken, which was Saturday of this past weekend. iDrive allows me to back up several computers to the same backup cloud. So instead, about half of that is for this particular computer, and then I have some other computers, including my phone, being backed up to the cloud. Here's a typical operation, backup operation, which didn't work completely. I've been having some issues, but their tech support has been very good. Since I changed computers, it doesn't seem to want to tell me that it completed the backup. But when I go out and look at the files out on the cloud, they're there. So I am not concerned, but they've been working with me to try to make the software indicate that I am getting all of my files backed up. So you're seeing that I have failure, but each one shows an increase in the number of files that are out there. So it is still backing up my files. And as I said, I have gone back out there and looked online in the cloud, and I can see the files that are being backed up. I can also tell it to schedule backup. Normally I have it set for every night at a certain time, and it's taking anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. If I'm not using the computer, it can take about an hour to do my backup. If I'm using the computer, it slows it down some, and so it may take 2 or 3 hours, but it's doing it in the background, and I can continue working. Now, to do a file-by-file backup, I use something called Always Sync, which is free. And there is the address for it at the bottom. Once you install it, it says, okay, you need to synchronize and browse first and pick the folder that you want to check, and then go to the other folder, whether it be on a different drive or on the same computer, a different computer, wherever it is, as long as it can connect. And then you tell it to analyze. So I've got the 2 drives, one on a C drive and one on a portable hard drive. I tell it to analyze, and it goes and says, okay, here are all the files on the C drive, and you don't have any of these on the D drive. And it created the folder for me. I told it to, and it created a folder, but there's nothing in that folder. So you can see where it says do not exist on the right-hand side. So then at that point, I click on the button that says synchronize, and it synchronizes it one file at a time, but it does it quickly. As a matter of fact, it did it in about a minute and a half. If you try to do this from one folder to another hard drive, the same folder, using File Manager in Windows, for instance, and it fails, you don't know which files had been duplicated and which files had not. With this, it figures it all out and says, okay, this one's already there, it's the same file, so you don't have to do anything, and I'll take care of the rest, and it will then fill it up. So it's a really good program, and as I said, it's free. And again, when it was finished, it was updated, all the files are on both the external drive and on the drive. And the next time I do this, and when I do the analyze, it'll show me any files that have been changed or any files that are new. And when I tell it to synchronize, it will put them in either direction. So if I make a change on one drive, on one hard drive, and then on another hard drive with the same folder, it will sync them in either direction. So, in conclusion, please back up. Doesn't matter what you use or how you do it, but do double check and make sure that the backup worked and that you do have a good backup. And one final warning. When I was in the computer business, we had a customer call and say somebody broke into our place of business and stole our computers and all of the equipment. And we said, did you have a backup? Do you have a backup? And he said, yes. And I said, great. Where is it? He said, it's attached to the computer. That won't help him. So remember that when you do backups, make sure that they're not always left attached to your computer, maybe even in the same room or on the same desk. Somebody breaks in, you get hit by a hurricane or a tornado, and everything disappears. You don't have your backup. So you want to take a backup on a regular basis and put it either in a relative's house, a friend's house, or a deposit box in a bank, somewhere safe that you'll know that you have your backup. And also use the cloud for those cases as well. And on that note, I'm Huey Poplock. Thank you for being with us.
Most of the software that they sell you, like Acronis and Windows Backup, is horrible. Okay? I don't know of anybody using it other than knows what they're doing. So I strongly recommend Macrium, which comes out of England, and it only has about a 1% failure rate. Okay? That's pretty darn good. Okay? I'd like to get back to Macrium later on and show you a screen or two. It's a little confusing when you start it up. So is every other backup system in the world. Why? It was designed for the corporations and the techs and the computer engineers to back up stuff that's really important. So you and I get on there, it looks a little confusing, but it does a heck of a good job. Okay? Any questions about backup?
Francis, I found a lot of things on YouTube, tutorials that walked you through how to use Macrium, and they were very helpful.
The tutorials on the internet are excellent. I can take apart just about any computer, fix almost any printer, any other problem in the world. Somebody has written a tutorial for doing it. And the ones for using Macrium are excellent. Okay? So he's right. If you need a tutorial, let me or Terry know, and we'll send one to you. Okay.
There was a question I did have. They have they talk about the rescue media, making a rescue media. And I already have one for Windows, the rescue media for Windows, but they talk about having one for Macrium. Do you need another rescue media, or will the one for Windows get you back in if you have complete crash?
It's when the one for Windows restores the operating system. And so that is helpful. But in Windows 10, you can Microsoft isn't storing your activation information, which is something called a UUID on the motherboard, inside your computer anymore. They're storing it up in their cloud, up in all these clouds up all around the country and around the world. So to reinstall a copy of Microsoft, the Windows, you can actually just throw it in and it'll activate itself again. You just have to know where to get a copy. If you need a copy, let me know. Okay. Some of us have copies of Windows clear back to the DOS days. So once you have a copy of Windows 10, you can reinstall to most of the computers out there. Okay. Now, if you buy a computer from a company like Dell or HP or Asus, one of these companies, you'll end up with a restore system that they've put onto your hard drive. And also, so you can use theirs instead of anything that Macrium or Acronis will give you. So every computer you buy from a manufacturer will come with some way to restore it back to the day you bought it. Okay, that may be a few days back. Okay, then you have to figure some way to upgrade it back to up to what you currently have. But that's what most people use. So it's up to you. If you want to use Macrium to make a restore for to restore your copy of Windows and all the other software, go for it. It'll work really reasonably well because it's a Microsoft partner, unlike Acronis. So they worked real hard with Microsoft to be able to boot your silly computer with whatever restore media that you create. It's been blessed by Microsoft, unlike some of the other companies.
Since
Okay.
since I already had the rescue media I made for Windows way back when, I just didn't know if I needed to make another one with the one that has Macrium was saying that make one here.
If you have a crash in your computer and Windows fails, if you're willing to go back to the day you bought your computer, and for some of us that's a few years back, that's fine. Keep the one that you made when you a long time ago, because that's the one you made when you first bought the computer. Okay, but if you want to back up everything you have, all your programs and Windows, pretty close to the current date, then you'll have to use the make one using Macrium or Cronus or whatever you're using. So it's up to you. It's a matter of hedging your bets.
I think he's talking about a restore disk that allows you to boot up and then access that complete backup that you made yesterday, rather than going back to the beginning.
That's correct, George.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the rescue disk, I guess, to get it booted up. But I have one for Windows that I made some time ago. But now, after I started to use Macrium, I see that they're suggesting or saying make another one that includes Macrium. But I've already made an image on an external hard drive of my my whole disk, so I don't need. I have that information stored, but I didn't know if I needed a Macrium quote unquote restore recovery flash drive.
When your computer fails enough, you'll need that Macrium recovery flash drive, unless you want to go back to the day you bought your computer. It's just your choice. That's all it is.
So as long as I have the image backup, which I made with Macrium, all I need to do is just load the Windows again from any place, and then go ahead and use my external hard drive that has the image file on it to reload everything back onto Windows.
Well, you'd have to download Macrium first in order to access that Macrium backup.
Which isn't that big a deal because it's a freebie, right? It won't cost you anything.
Because Windows won't access that Macrium backup.
So is that what the Macrium flash drive is recovery drive is showing a selection of, you can select Macrium image, I guess, on that recovery drive when I was seeing the tutorial on YouTube. I just wasn't certain.
The Macrium recovery drive saves you one step. You don't have to reinstall Windows. Actually help you reinstall Windows and back up a lot of other stuff. It just saves you some effort. That's all.
Okay. That makes sense.
So anyhow, I thought I'd jump through a few topics just for laughs and see if anybody wants to hear any details. Let's see, what are we going to talk about? Okay, two things. I'm going to go real quick through a couple of things. I'm going to share screen, okay? Let's see if I can figure out how to do that again. Click on there. I don't want to share computer sound. I want to share my screen. How's that? Okay, now I'm going to show you some stuff. It's going to be really fast, okay? I won't go into too many details. You've probably all heard of, in the Mac's world, what do we have in iPhones? We have something called FaceTime, right? And so what happens when you don't have a Mac device? You can't communicate with FaceTime. So it's a great way to lock people in. Companies like the Apple company enjoy locking you in to their hardware, right? It's called vendor lock-in. What else can I tell you about? To avoid that, other companies like to throw darts at Apple and make things that aren't lock-in. And one thing is called Dual. It's a piece of software that runs on everything. It runs on Macs, Windows computers, iPhones, Android phones, everything. Okay? So I'm going to show you on the left. I hope you see my screen. On the left here, I have my Android phone. Just spot it. A screenshot of it. See that? On the left there.
Yeah.
On the right there, I have my wife's iPhone 7. Only but goodie, right? Two things. Now, you can't do this. You can't use an iPhone to call an Android if you use FaceTime, okay? And so when you walk into a Mac store, they'll tell you, go tell your friends to buy Macs and iPhones. Come back and make us some money, right? Instead, if you might walk up to them and say, I don't need to. I can use Google Duo, okay? And that'll work in both between one computer, one system and another. So I'm going to have my iPhone call my wife's, no, correction. I'm going to have my Android phone call my wife's iPhone. How's that? With a video call. I'm going to go out of there and I'm going to pick the icon that represents her phone, right? I'm going to click on it. I'm going to say video call. And then this phone's going to start ringing. And I'm going to slide to answer. Okay, I'm going to slide to answer. And I'm talking to her, right? Let's see, what else can I tell you about? I can turn on video on my phone. I can turn on video on her phone. Unfortunately, to do that, I have to be smart enough to turn it on by tapping the phone. Okay. Now, I have no video from me. Takes the fun out of things. Video is off. So I'm going to solve that problem. How's that? A little bit of feedback here, right? With video off, where's video? Right there. It claims it's on. Okay, now, the little window represents your camera, right? And the big window represents the other party's camera, okay? Now an Android phone is talking to an iPhone, and it works the other way around too, okay? Now, so if you walk into a Mac store and they start giving you the hard sell about making all your friends buy iPhones, just tell them you have Google Duo and walk out, okay? This works fine. And I'll tell you a little bit more about Google Duo in a little while after I jump to the next topic. How's that? I'm trying to jump around to make sure nobody falls asleep too quick. Okay, so I'm going to hang up on, and Duo is free, and I can even call a phone from inside any web browser, like a Windows computer or Safari in a Mac, and call a phone. So you can make a group and have all three groups calling each other, all three people talking to each other. Okay, so then you can share screens, but right now that's a new feature that you can only do from an Android. Okay, this is very new. It changes every month right now. But the trade press refers to this as a FaceTime killer because it gives people the right to tell the Mac store, well, I don't have to make my friends buy iPhones or iPads. I can put in Google Duo. So keep that in mind. I'm going to hang up both phones. I'm going to hang up but that should have hung up everything, right? So it's all over. The phone call's over. Now, that's one thing I wanted to tell you about. I'm going to minimize all that. I'm going to go to the next topic. How's that? And both topics are now, I think, up on our website. Okay? So keep in mind. Now, here's another thing I'm interested in. I hope you can see all this. Let me know if you can't see my PowerPoint slide. See that?
Not yet.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
There
Nice.
we go.
Okay,
There we go.
Homesoap. I did a big study analysis of the different devices for sanitizing cell phones, keys, tools, devices. Okay? And I started looking at different ones and how they're designed, and I came to various crazy conclusions. You know me, I'm not going to try to draw faults or lead people wrong on things. Okay? Now, what did I find out? I haven't had time to write most of this down, okay? I came up to the conclusion that this is the best one. It looks like a box. It's about the size of 2 shoe boxes, put side to side. And what's amazing about it is it's got 2 lamps inside it. What's important about 2? The one on the top and one on the bottom. They're both made by Philips of Holland. They put out UVC light. Now, what's important about UVC light? it probably is the only only thing you can use other than stinky chemicals to kill COVID-19 germs. So it makes it a rather important thing to have around if you're in the susceptible population. Okay. Now, it's got 2 lamps in it, and the inside of it is a reflector. It reflects this UV light to make it bounce around. Now, just because I'm a little paranoid, each time you put it in, it goes for 10 minutes. So I like to go and turn the thing around, any object I put inside, and go for another 10. Okay. So that's the good one. Okay. If I've come to the conclusion that most of these devices don't reflect the light around. They haven't been designed. There's a patent on this one. And so they don't really do a good job of getting the sides and bottoms of things. But this one seems to do the trick. It's the most expensive one on the market also, because they know it. Okay. What else can I tell you about? They're using quartz. No one else is, to bounce the UVC light around. I don't think any other company is. Most other companies just have it shine in one direction. I noticed that a lot of the baby bottle sterilizers only shine UV light in one direction and don't bounce it around. Okay, what else can I tell you about? Okay, it shows you how it works, shows you what size it is. A lot of people are using it on their baby bottles and pacifiers and things. That's what I tell you about. Okay, a whole bunch of scientists have been testing this darn device. And what you do is you swab something. You swab something with something, and you put it on a dish, in the middle of a Petri dish, and you do it twice, one for each dish. On the dish that you put inside the box, you zap it for 10 minutes. Then you put both items, and you grow them in a nice warm environment and see what kind of germs you grow. Okay? And you find out how good of a job it did for disinfecting the few germs that you stuck into the swab. Okay? This is the typical process. I used to do it in a lab when I worked for the university. Okay. It also charges your phone, and it continues charging your phone after the 10 minutes is over, as long as it's plugged in. And what I found out about it is they don't tell you that they now have 2 lamps inside. They added that in to modify the design the last few months. Okay, their website doesn't say that. I just open it up and I see 2 lamps inside. Okay, they can't keep up with their changes to their design. Okay, and in the back you have a Kensington lock adapter. Whenever I have people trying to sell a house for me, I lock everything down. The Kensington lock keeps things from growing legs on their own or wings and flying off. Okay, and that's the power jack back there, some kind. What else I have to show you?
Is a Kensington lock, is that where you put the wire through it to attach it to something else with a padlock or something?
It's a patent funny thing. You put it in there and you close it off with an ace key, a round ace key. It's kind of the thing that most laptops have, because Kensington put a patent on it, so everybody's got to pay them for the patent. Okay, they invented the whole system.
But it's a physical lock of some sort, correct?
Well, the lock is kind of a case hardened wire that you have to buy with a little round cylinder at one end.
Right.
It shoves into that little slot there, and you use the ace key to lock it in. Works fine.
Gotcha.
And whenever I help someone sell a house, and of course they pay me for all this trouble, I lock down their computers with these fancy locking chain devices. And I haven't had anything walk off yet. Okay.
Good.
That's a good thing. Now, here's the price. This is the most expensive one currently available for the home use. They're used in lots of hospitals and dental offices. So they're actually used professionally, but they're also sold for houses and for people and small businesses. Okay. And they're real handy. And you know it works because it makes a funny smell, the plastic in it, in spite of all the ground quartz plates inside it. the plastic edges of it have a funny smell when you open up the box when you're through sanitizing something. The hospital people call it the sanitization smell, okay? And you can't avoid that. Plastic eventually deteriorates when you hit it with UVC, and nobody's been energetic enough to invent a plastic that isn't going to break down with it, okay? So keep that in mind. Once I tell you, it comes in 2 colors, and I bought one, and I've been sanitizing the hell out of everything that goes out of my house into some other business and gets held by somebody, like a credit card or something.
Yeah. You know, for $200 at that seems like a lot of money to me. Can't you just sanitize your phone by using one of the alcohol wipes on it?
Absolutely. Alcohol wipes work just fine. Every once in a while, the alcohol will get in through a port or something and cause trouble. Every once in a while. So, but you're right. Alcohol wipes and these boxes do the job.
And you wouldn't want to use an alcohol wipe on a pacifier or a baby bottle, probably, but it would work for.
The alcohol wipe will work just fine, and so will soap, and so will a lot of other things. This is just a little more efficient. You can't use alcohol in a lot of medical devices because they're sensitive and have a coating on them, much other crazy stuff. But this is how you can sanitize credit cards. I don't even trust alcohol on credit cards because I've had some bad luck with alcohol and cleansers on credit cards. So this does the trick. It gives you the 2 tools that epidemiologists, which are biologists that specialize on germs, recommend are something like this and the alcohol wipes. And the alcohol wipes have a small problem. They put alcohol on things and they found out it takes 2 minutes for them to really work. Well, how many of you, when you're disinfecting something, put something on it for 2 minutes? Well, it turns out that detergent and ammonia and bleach kill on contact instead of in 2 minutes. So if you watch Dr. Gupta on CNN cleaning his counters in his kitchen at his house, he has something else to do because he can't go to the studio right now. He's an employee of CNN News, right? He was cleaning it with soap and water because it cleans on contact. And he was using Lysol also. It cleans on contact. So the scrubbing bubbles by Dow. But he said that when I have the time, I will use alcohol to hedge my bets. And he'll lay that on there and wait his 2 minutes. Now, somebody invented an alcohol-based cleaner that changes color for 2 minutes. You put it on something and you wait your 2 minutes. It turns blue, then it turns clear again. To make sure you spend your 2 minutes and you covered everything. And that guy's going to make $1 billion because he thinks that will be what the hospitals and a lot of businesses you want. Something that's non-toxic. Most of the cleansers, like Clorox and ammonia and everything else, are toxic. And people are concerned about trace elements gradually building up in people's bodies, right? But this alcohol thing doesn't build up in your body. Matter of fact, you probably have some in there right this minute as you speak. So alcohol is still fairly safe. They just put in that poison in there so you don't drink it. And if you're an alcoholic, that's why all the mouthwashes have poison in them, right? So you can't drink them. If you do, you'll get really sick. But then there's trace amounts of that poison that end up in you anyway, right? Because you have to gargle with the darn things. Okay? So anyhow, this gives me a second way to sanitize things. I've been sanitizing everything I get my hands on. So if you show up, I'll probably sanitize part of you. No, that won't work. UV-C is very dangerous to people. And the effect on people's eyes, their retinas, and on their skin is unknown and untested. So what are they selling? They're selling these wands that shine it somewhere. And you're supposed to use it to sanitize surfaces, not knowing the long-term effects on your own skin and your retina and your brain. Well, there's a lot of stuff out there like that. Somebody makes money, he'll sell it to you. They don't have any long-term studies on it, so nobody knows the long-term effect of UVC. They say that all of it gets blocked by the atmosphere. So this is probably pretty darn dangerous, right? In spite of the fact that they're selling it to you in wands and these funny handheld waffle ironing like things that you can shine at things. And then the other rule is somebody invented a UVC bulbs made out of Holland. They have the patents on it. You put into a business and you run out of the business, close the doors, and you press a button and it comes on. When you press a button, it goes off. That way you don't have to look at it and it doesn't have to affect you, make unknown effects to you and turn you into a Frankenstein. See? So there's a lot of things people have invented, knowing there's problems, but not testing the long-term effects. And the safest thing to do is to make sure it doesn't hit your skin or your eyeballs. But nobody wants to talk about any of that. They just want to sell you something. See?
We know better now.
We do?
We know better now.
I see.
Not to buy their stuff, right? But this Homesoap doesn't have those risks, right? Because you close the door so that the UVC doesn't escape, right?
That's correct. I even don't like the boxes that are similar to Homesoap that have a window for you to look inside. There's unknown effects of what UVC does to you when it comes through a window and hits you in the eye, and nobody's done a study on it. You would think by now someone would have at least done it on a few rats or a few rabbits or something, because scientists love torturing animals, right? But nobody's done any testing on it, so nobody knows. But I get nervous when I see a big window on the side of a box that's supposed to disinfect things with an unknown effect on your nervous system. I'm just too much of a skeptic, you know? It's kind of like lead. The whole Roman Empire was using lead utensils for everything, right? It helped with the world, helped them get eventually overrun. So people never know what the bad effects are of something until they're dead, and a few generations later, right? Same thing happened to asbestos, right? Asbestos was used by the piles around almost everything in every home in the country for what, 50 years? All of a sudden it's so bad that people won't even buy a house unless you promise to either encapsulate it or remove it. See? So it all depends. So that's that topic. What else do we want to show you? Somebody say something, other than including George.
I'm still here.
Okay, good. Now
You had some other things on your
I have a whole pile of stuff.
possible list.
I got about 5 hours of stuff. So now I want to show you Macrium Reflect. How's that?
Okay.
Like Terry says, there's lots of good, what do you call the darn things? I got to get out of this. Let me hit the escape key there. Like Terry says, there's tons of good information on the internet. When I want to do something I've never done before, I watch videos of other people screwing things up. Then I do my own, make my own mistakes. Okay? Now, I'm going to start up Macrium Reflect. You tell me if you can't see some of it. You should see the whole window. I'm going to start it up. You put it in your computer and it gives you this warning, and it's to make sure it's up to date. Do you at least see the whole window?
Yep.
All right, good. Macrium Reflect free. The left pane on the left here is stuff you can do. Okay? And right now, and what's important is it starts off with backup tasks because it figures that's what most people want, right? If you click on this other tab, you get the restore tasks. You click on this log, you can find out what the heck happened if something went wrong while it was backing up last time. All right, so you can go to the log and it'll report to you what problems it found. If your hard drive failed, or some part of your hard drive, it'll tell you, unable to write to hard drive, unable to read from hard drive. It'll tell you whatever you need to know, okay? Now, look at this screen here. It shows you a list of all your hard drives. So you have to pick one and only one. Now to pick one, you've got to click, even if there's already a check mark here, you got to uncheck it and check it back. If you put a check mark in and notice the two things that pop up, the clone this disk and image this disk, very useful, okay? Now, what would you want to do if you wanted to clone this disk? Well, here's my C drive down here. I got a whole bunch of hard drives, right? I'm a hard worker and I volunteer for a lot of places. This is my complicated C drive. It's got a lot of backups on it that Microsoft put in. But none of them are very big, so I'll leave them alone. I don't want to mess around with God, I mean Microsoft. Okay? Now, if you click on it, look how it says clone this disk and image this disk. What it doesn't tell you is when you click on it, any other one that has cloned this disk or imaged this disk underneath it has disappeared. So unless you clone or image a disk, one disk at a time, right? If you click on clone this disk, it runs you to a second screen and asks you where you want to clone a disk to. The only disk I ever want to clone is the C drive or whatever else is on the main drive in my computer. I want to clone the whole darn thing. So I don't want to clone just one partition. I want to clone the whole darn drive. So I don't ever click on these little check marks on the right. And I'm sure Terry found that out. That can cause a lot of trouble. When you click on this main check mark, it unchecks or checks the whole drive. And for when you want to clone Windows, you have to pretty much grab the whole drive. That's the only safe way to do it. Otherwise, you're risking a backup that they cloned that doesn't work. Okay. So what happens? I go and I buy a second drive, a bigger drive, a bigger C drive. Right now I've got a 2 terabyte C drive, SSD. I buy a 3 one. Okay. I go to my banker and borrow some money and buy a big one. When I click on clone this drive, it asks me where the hell you want to clone it to. You got to go pick it. The source is already the C drive. The destination says select a disk to clone. I click on it, and if I just stuck a new disk on, it'll let me pick the one I want to clone it to. Then I go next and finish. And about, in my case, 3 hours later, I've got a complete clone of my C drive. Okay, that's cloning. That's a very useful feature. Almost all the backup systems have that. Okay, so if you want to make a copy of your C drive, it's best to do it before it starts having problems. You want to clone a drive with problems while it's having problems, right? You might have a bit of an exciting day. Now, let's undo all that. Let's just cancel. Most of the time, you'll be doing a backup, and that's also known as an image. Now, the backup, what Huey was talking about is backing up the file in a format that you can really see with Windows File Manager, right? But if you image the drive, it stores it in 1/2 or 1/3 compressed of the actual space used by that drive. That can save you a ton of storage space. When you back up, do you back up to a drive that's always attached to your computer? Do you back up to extra space that you've created on your C drive? Those are all dumb things to do, especially if someone steals your computer. So what you need to do then is to build a hard drive for yourself or buy one. Building them is cheaper and more reliable and easier on the environment than buying a hard drive, having a piece in it fail, and throwing out the whole hard drive. So I build my own, and I got instructions, and I can show you how to do it. The parts are standard. They're standard parts you can buy at Amazon. Okay? And once you do that, when one part fails, other parts are still working. You send that part to electronic recycle in California. We have to send it to a government certified electronic disposal location, and then they go and bury it in Utah or in Vietnam, wherever they found a government certified site to dispose of electronics. Okay. If you image a drive to another hard drive, make it an external drive, and there's 3 kinds: eSATA, SATA, and USB. And I can show you how to do all that. And it's not that hard to do. If you build your own, I'm recommending spending an extra $10 or so and putting a fan on the bottom of the darn drive. It'll make it last twice as long. Yeah, that's one thing I think Dr. Sandok does also. Anyhow, bolt the fan down there. There are fans built that bolt right onto the bottom of a hard drive. And then attach that hard drive to your computer, and there's several ways to do that. I'll show you that in the future if you want to try it. And back up to that hard drive. Then take that darn hard drive and put it somewhere away from your computer. In my case, file cabinets that are locked, bolted down to the ground, which that won't stop the FBI from using a cutting torch to remove them, right? And when they show up to do like they did on Hillary, when they show up to borrow your storage files, they'll just cut anything that they need and take the whole file cabinet with them, right? And it's so, or at a bank vault, I do that too, and you'll have several places to store things, and hopefully your house and the bank vault won't both burn down on the same day. Okay, so send an image to an external hard drive. You can buy external hard drives. Nobody in their right mind buys SSDs for long-term storage because they're so expensive still, but the price is coming down, right? So I buy spinning hard drives from various companies. To hedge my bets, I buy more than one company's stuff. Then I store them in file cabinets and in banks. And that's how I back up my data for the businesses I run. Okay? So anyhow, let me just go through the start of imaging one of my drives. My data is not stored on the C drive. That's dumb to do. It's not stored on the U and the W. It's stored on the L drive, right? So how do I start it? I find the L drive and I uncheck it and I check it. It's a little dumb, but that's the way to bring up this image, this button, okay? And like Terry has told us, you can find people just explaining all this on the internet. Then you click image this disk, and then it says, where do you want to put it? I like to put it on the X drive, which I have ready to go, right? See this X drive? That's the drive I use every night to back up the stuff for my business and for the volunteer work I do. So it's already picked. If I don't like it, I can pick an alternative location by doing this drop down here and go to another drive. See this drop down right here? Then I can say next. Now, okay, I can't finish it because I turned off this X drive. Then next, it asks you to configure a file for future reruns of this storage, and I just unconfigure. I just turn everything off. Okay, and then I click on backup, and then it asks you right afterwards, do you want to store a script to redo this backup again? I say no. I uncheck it. Then I click on backup, and anywhere from 6 to 12 hours later, I'm done. Okay. I've been telling you before, 12 hours is if it's trying to fix your hard drive. 6 hours is if your hard drive is fine and doesn't find any problems. Though it also fixes your hard drive while it's backing up to your thing. I do not think Acronis does that. So they've written an amazing piece of software that I hope we can still get after Brexit hits. I heard rumors that Macrium wants to move to Paris. That seems like everybody wants to move to Paris because of Brexit over in England. That's what I've been hearing. Okay. So any other questions, or do you want me to jump into some other topic?
Francis, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, if you don't click that that little check mark, just click in the box. It will do the same thing without clicking that check mark.
What check mark?
The one that you said click on and off to select which drive you want to. You don't need to hit the check mark at all. Just hit the box. Drop down one, and I'll show you an example. Just drop down. Now just don't click the box. Don't click the box. Just click there. Just click.
You're
See how
right.
you don't need to hit the check mark. Just click in the box itself, and you don't there. Now it picks that one.
So okay, so you taught me something. That's great, Terry. So you don't have to click the check mark.
No, you just click in the box, and it'll select that one.
Yeah, actually, I'm not convinced that. Let me try again. If you click in the box, even though it's already checked, it'll go. Yeah, well. See what makes me nervous? The check mark goes away.
Yeah, just don't click the check mark because you want to check everything. You want to have it pick everything. But if you leave the check mark there and just click anywhere in the box, it will select that particular drive with everything checked already.
Yeah, what got me in the past was if you clicked by mistake over here, it only backs up one partition, and that was deadly.
Right, you just be picking just one. So leave the box just check that the main box there, and then, but you can move between the different drives and select those drives that you want to make an image or a clone of just by clicking in the box. See how it pops up below it?
Yeah, that's great. That, in the past, if it wasn't checked, it wouldn't let me back up. So they've improved it. Too many people complained. So
Yeah.
I'll try it your way.
And I don't do the clone because that copies all the blank spaces in between that you don't really need. I do the image disk, and you can do, you know, a much smaller amount because it's only actually copying what's been written, not the blank space in between.
Now, if I want it to be bootable, I'm not sure of the image. I guess it will.
It said it would in the tutorials that an image disk will let you reinstall everything that was on there. It's just not copied into blank space, and that way you don't need a bigger hard drive than what you're. Say you got a 1 terabyte hard drive, you wouldn't need a 2 terabyte to do the backup because you'd have to have something bigger because it's copying all the empty space in between.
That's great. Okay, so I'll try that, Terry. I'm glad they got fixed that problem in the past.
Yeah, and then the only other thing that I kept saying about it, I think it's some other task up there in the top where it gives you the opportunity to make the flash drive recovery drive, and I just didn't do that because I already had one on another flash drive for Windows, and I didn't know if I needed to make one for that and burn up another flash drive to do that.
Yeah, I kind of make one once in a while, but I generally, when I have enough problems with the hard drive, just reinstall Windows from scratch. Because that doesn't continue whatever problem you had, and gives you Windows a chance to fix the drive. So I generally like to just start from scratch. They call that a clean install.
Right. I haven't even scratched the surface of learning everything about Macrium, but boy, there's a lot in there. I really like it.
Yeah, I enjoy it too. Now, let me see what else I want to show you guys. Okay.
Before you leave that, I wanted to ask, are you using the free version, Francis and Terry?
Yes, definitely.
99% of people are using the free version. I don't know anybody that's paying for the extras.
The only thing that you don't get that I found that you wouldn't need. There's 3 different backups that it makes. It's the full image and it gives you a schedule, and then there's a differential, and then there is a
okay. All right.
There's a third one, and the third one that you don't get is the one every time you make a change, it automatically backs that up. The
That's
differential, okay. You pick it that you do it once a week, and the other one is once a month. So you only lose the one thing, but everything you need is there on the free.
That's good. Thanks for the information.
You're welcome.
I want to show you one other thing that's kind of interesting. If you go to Amazon and you look up a company I used to like, that's located about 3 miles from where I live, it's called CalDigit. And what I'm going to show you is how to find a lemon in Amazon. In other words, don't buy it. Okay, see this thing right here? $219. Purchased 2 times. Each time I purchased it, I read all these raving reviews, and 6 months later, Windows or the Mac operating system is supposed to work on both, had broken it. See this thing? $200. Now, it's a little too much jammed together into one box. It runs really hot. You notice all these fins on it, right? And it's got all kinds of stuff added to it. It's got a sound card built into it. It's got all kinds of USB connectors attached to it. It's got a SD card reader. It's got all kinds of stuff, okay, on it. The only thing wrong with it is it doesn't work good, okay? Now, how would you know that it doesn't work good? Look at the ratings. 1,900 ratings, okay? All these people said it worked fine, okay? Now, if you look at the back end, it's got more sound. It's got sound. This is the back end on top here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right. It's got sound, and it's got all kinds of stuff. And it's got more ports, and it's got an SD card reader. And on the bottom, it's got a display port output. Basically, it's a whole half of a computer. Okay.
Mhm.
Let me tell you what's wrong with it. First of all, every time I install it, up about 3 weeks later, it's broke because they don't keep up with changes in Windows and in macOS. So how would you know this is not a good one to buy? Well, I'm a little wiser than I used to be. Click here on reviews, right? Right here, these 5 stars, right? And look at the reviews, and click here on the 5-star reviews, and look at when the last review came out that was 5-star. This guy from Vietnam says it's wonderful, and he wrote it on June 2018. What's happened in between? I'll tell you a little secret. People bought them and sent them back to Amazon. I wasn't smart enough to do it. You only have about 40 days, 30 days. So that's a lemon, okay? I have 2 sitting next to me. I bought them. I wanted to support local businesses, so I bought them. And each time I was real happy for about a week or a month, and it broke. And each time it broke, I waited a few months, a month or 2, reinstalled it, and worked good again, and it died again in 4 to 6 weeks. See? So how do you know that thing's a lemon? Well, nobody has said anything good about it that said it was wonderful for 2 years. That's okay. Amazon doesn't come on and tell you that. You have to go read the reviews and look at the last review. Okay? So I lived and learned. There's something I really wanted. Now, I've got similar complaints from docs from many other companies. There's a company called One World Computing, OWC, that makes a similar dock. It's got the same problems. I got a similar dock from HP. It's about the same price. It has the same problems. I've got a similar dock. I don't own all these. I just read the reviews, and I go running off into the sunset. Dell makes a similar dock, and it has the same problems. To make a long story short, buy the pieces in it separately. It's the company that makes this thing hasn't issued an update for its driver since 2018, and that's when people stopped writing good things about it. So if you go to caldigit.com, they've been too busy selling them and running off with their other projects. They haven't supported this device. Okay, so that's how you can tell. Read the reviews and see when the last good review was. Amazon only uses their website to average out what reviews are there. It doesn't tell you that nobody's said a darn good thing about it for 2 years.
That's a good point. Thanks for mentioning that. I never would have thought of that.
I wouldn't either. Thank you. I have a quick story to tell you about a relation of my wife's who bought, I think it was a foot massager or something like that, and it was absolutely terrible. And she sent it back and put a bad review on Amazon. Amazon called her and told her that they would give her a gift card for, I don't know, $75, $50, something equal to the value that she paid for that, if she would take that review off. And she did, and they sent her the card. And so I don't know how couldn't say that they're.
That's really disappointing to hear.
Yeah, I was shocked.
Disappointed in Amazon for doing something like that.
Yeah, to my knowledge, they blocked those kind of offers the last about 2 years ago. So it must have been at least 2 years ago. So you can't block a bad review anymore on Amazon. At least that's what they claim.
They asked her if she would take it off. They would give her a gift card.
Yeah,
So
was that more than 2 years ago?
I don't think it was that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. But I'm not certain, and I don't have all the facts. I just remember her saying that story, that they gave her a gift card to take her bad review off.
Mm-hmm. Now Amazon has one policy, and Amazon's resellers have another policy, and they're a lot flakier. Okay, Amazon has a lot of people using their website, but they're actually small businesses and medium-sized businesses that just use them to sell things on. So it depends on whether or not you're dealing with Amazon itself or some fly-by-night place.
It very well could have been a reseller.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, those kind of people don't exist very long. Every once in a while, I'll buy something that's totally dead, right? And I'll send and then sometimes from China, or sometimes from New York, where a lot of crooks are. And I'll try to return it, and they'll say, "Sorry, sir, that's your problem," or something like that, or ignore my emails. Or in the case of China, okay, they put a totally wrong description of our product. They sold it, send it to me. So they said, send it back to us, we'll refund your money. Oh, sorry, sir, we never got it. So then I ate the price of sending it back. And the guy at the post office looked at the address and said, this company in Guangdong, China, doesn't normally refund money. You're welcome to send it, but you're not going to get your money back. And he knew it. He knew they were crooks. My buddy at the post office, who speaks 5 languages. And so I said, all right, go ahead and send it to him. I'll see what happens. So I need something to talk about anyway. So I paid the $12 to send it back, and I haven't heard from them since.